For the sixth consecutive season, the Blues are in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and for the second time in 3 years, they face the Minnesota Wild. And hi again, everyone. I'm John Kelly alongside Chris Kerber. The Blues and Wild get set to do battle a best-of-7 series starting Wednesday in St. Paul. This should be a great 7-game matchup.
It should be a heck of a first-round series, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see. And coming up over the next few minutes, folks, Kelly Chase is going to talk with Alexander Steen. Darren Pang will have a conversation with Alex Pietrangelo. We've got some breakdown from the two of us on the series, and also Chaser and Panger will break down the series from their perspectives as well. And look at it, John. The Blues had a fantastic regular season in the end. Yeah, it had some ups and downs. They fired a coach after Game 50. Mike Yeo coached the final 32 games of the regular season. They only lose 8 games in regulation in that final stretch. They finished with 99 points, only the 10th time in franchise history that's happened, and they also finished with 46 wins. Now, they've only had 45 wins in a season 9 times in franchise history. So, in the end, a terrific run where they started with Mike Yeo 1 point out of a playoff spot. They ended up earning the number 3 spot in the Central Division. And I guess in the ironies of ironies that work out in sports, it's Mike Yeo and his St. Louis Blues against the team that let him go a year ago, the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, and Mike Yeo was asked about it after yesterday's victory against Colorado, and he downplayed it to a degree, but I've got to believe deep down this is a big series for Mike Yeo.
This has been a real unique and a bit of a tough year for Mike in a lot of ways. One, he came in as an assistant coach, which was good for him, and he talked about it being a very good thing. He ends up being the head coach, which was a bit of a surprise. But his family stayed back in Minnesota because his daughter had gone to college. His son was finishing up his senior year. So he's been without his family. And he talks about his family a lot. You know that he's a strong family guy. And so now you look at it, and he's got the challenge of facing off against a team that let him go. And as he talked about, it could be both an advantage and a disadvantage depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, exactly. The Blues, by the way, for the record, were 3-2 this year against the Minnesota Wild. For more on this series and this matchup, Kelly Chase is with Alexander Steen.
Well, thanks, John, and I'm here with Alex Steen, and certainly an exciting time of the year for this hockey club. Since February, very defensively sound and built on something. What has been the biggest change in the second half, and how do you guys look towards this series with Minnesota?
I think what you mentioned. Obviously, we got to work on details in our defensive game and, details in our game in general. I think offensively we've been putting up way better numbers than we were in the beginning. Obviously our goaltending's been huge, but for the most part, I think our team consistency and the type of game we wanted to build, I felt like we kept building it, wins or losses. We kept moving forward, and we put ourselves in a good spot, and obviously extremely excited and anxious to get going here in the playoffs.
When you're playing a team like Minnesota, you know they've got the good goaltending. They do a heck of a job of boxing you out of the tight areas. What's going to be the key to beating the Minnesota Wild?
Well, they're always battles. It's a team we know well, right through their lineup, from their goalies to their back end of their forwards, and like you said, they play a very consistent defensive game. They like to box out, keep everything to the outside. So it'll be a war for us to get into the middle there, but that's where we got to go to score goals on those guys and create some havoc in front of Dubnyk. They're a good team if you give them transition. I think if you give up pucks and don't manage the puck properly, gives them a little bit of life. So for us, it'll be that part of the game will be key.
Does it help that your coach has spent such a long time with Minnesota and maybe knows a little bit of the characteristics of some of the guys?
I think so. I'm sure he'll be able to give us a lot of input on individuals as well as their team game, what they what players are comfortable with, but more importantly, what gets them uncomfortable a little bit, and it'll be important for us to create that feeling and that type of game plan against them.
When you know that you've had guys come in and out of the lineup, you've had a lot of young guys come in the transition to playing forced in because of injuries, ate up important minutes. Now you get Vladdy Sobotka back in the lineup. Is it one of those things where you guys just kind of march on and not worry about who's in the lineup? Because it seems like the consistency in your game has been the same no matter who's been there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the guys that have come up and played for us have played huge roles and big contributors in what we've built here. you know, I think with Vladdy coming in, he obviously brings a lot of competitiveness. He's an extremely competitive player. He's smart. He sees the ice well. He's someone that I think you can move around in the lineup as well. He's very. You need him on the left side, or you need him in the middle, or there's a certain matchup. Or something happens in the game where you lose a guy for a couple shifts. He's very easy to move around, so he'll be a big help here moving forward.
Well, he is an interchangeable part, as well the fans in St. Louis. So how excited are you to get going with these playoffs?
Yeah, it's a special time of year, man. You can sense, you know, I'm already seeing signs up around the city, and you know, the weather starts turning, starts getting a little warmer around here, and the atmosphere just goes up. So it's you know, we're extremely excited and like anxious to get going, and you know, especially play in front of and play for our city and our fans.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, and hopefully, I know we're as excited about having a long run as you guys are, so thanks for your time.
Let's go, Chaser.
All right, let's go. Back up to you, John.
All right, Kelly, thank you very much. Chris, one of the intriguing matchups to me is the Wild offense. They were second best in the entire league in goal scores against the Blues defense. They were 12th best. However, one caveat, since Mike Yeo took over, they were number one.
Well, and it is a real interesting one, because you can make the case that the Minnesota Wild may have been one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NHL for a good chunk of the season, most of the season, until they slipped on a small banana peel with a few weeks to go. The flip side is if you look at the St. Louis Blues, John, under Mike Yeo, since February 2nd, their even strength goal differential is plus 25. That's the best in the National Hockey League. So the Blues were scoring goals. They actually scored more goals this season than they did a year before, and they found a way to be the best and stingiest defensive team in the last 2 months of the regular season. And that, to me, is going to be a real interesting matchup on this series. Speaking of the defense, let's go to Darren Pang. He's got the captain of the St. Louis Blues, Alex Pietrangelo.
Well, Chris, thanks very much. The captain, Alex Pietrangelo, and you're all set. You know who you're going to play. It's the Minnesota Wild, and maybe a little vengeance, personally, team-wise, after what happened a couple of years ago.
Well, we got that, and I think Mike, you know, going back, I think he's got something to prove too. So, it's a great place to play. It's going to be a fun environment. We know our fans are going to be, you know, pretty loud. Theirs as well, and it's become a rivalry. I mean, the way they've played over the last few years, the way we've played, it's going to be a competitive series, and you know, I like the way we're headed right now.
Recently, you guys have started on home ice. This time around, you're going to start in Minnesota. Is that something that you guys relish, maybe going in there as the underdog early on?
You know what? Looking at our record here in the second half on the road, I don't think it's really an underdog for us. I think we've really proven that we can play, you know, at home and on the road. So any environment you put us in, I like our chances with this group.
While you and Jay Bomeister get so much of the defensive assignments, what part of the Minnesota Wild will you pay most attention to?
Well, there's going to be some shared responsibility. I mean, obviously they got a couple big lines there. I mean, Granlund's obviously had a fantastic year, and you know, obviously Eddie and Perry are going to share that responsibility as well. So it's going to be on us to really take care of those top two lines. But this time of the year, it takes a unit of 5 to make sure you shut down the team's top lines. And like I said, I like our group, the way it's put together.
And one addition to this, the little guy with gumption, Vladdy Sobotka, back in the lineup.
You know what? It's like he never left. Having breakfast with him the other day, it's a little strange, but watching him and Schwartzy out there, I'm kind of getting them mixed up. But the trickle-down effect of having him in the lineup is obviously special and a real, you know, key contributor at both ends of the ice.
Alex, thank you. Good luck in the playoff series.
Thanks, man.
Okay, Chris, let's go back up to you.
All right, Panger, thank you very much. We'll get back to you and Chaser in just a moment and get your guys' breakdown on this first-round series. But, John, another interesting aspect of this series is really down the middle. The Minnesota Wild made a trade at the deadline getting Martin Hanzal. They added a 6'6" centerman. And when you look at their 4 centermen, of Mikko Koivu being 6'3", Jordan Staal 6'2", 6'6", and Martin Hanzal. Even Eric Howell on their 4th line is a 6-foot centerman. They've got size down the middle.
Yeah, you know, physically they're bigger than the Blues, but obviously the Blues have a lot of heart. We don't know the status of Paul Stastny, but certainly that will be a challenge for the Blues, how they handle that size and also how they handle the faceoffs, because that's one of the small aspects in any kind of series, Curbs. You talk about special teams goaltending, but faceoffs could be key as well.
And this is where getting Vladimir Sobotka back in the mix could be a real big help, especially if Paul Stastny misses a game or two.
Yeah, no question. Don't forget, a couple of years ago, in his last year with the Blues, he was over 62% in the faceoff circle. So he probably will be the Blues' best faceoff man. And as we know, even though he's a small guy in stature, he's a big guy as far as heart.
That is, he's got that grit that you need on that faceoff dot, and that will be a huge key to this series. Well, what does Darren Pang and Kelly Chase think about this playoff series? Let's go back downstairs to Darren Pang.
Well, Curbs, thanks very much. And talking about the series against the Minnesota Wild, Kelly, you know, they play a certain system that gives a lot of teams fits. Do you think any part of this is going to be the physicality of against a team like Minnesota?
Well, I think so. I think what they've done is they've added some components to their team. They've added about 60 goals of physical play, guys that are grinding and that add depth and experience. So when you get Eric Stahl, Martin Hansel, Chris Stewart, those types of guys, all of a sudden you've added one guy's almost got 30, another guy's got 20, 13 goals. That adds a component to your team that gives you a little bit of an edge because they can score as well. So the depth with the Minnesota Wild has never been deeper. And I think that's important. And as you brought up, it's a physical depth. So in the grind of the playoffs, they're a type of team, if they get the goaltending that they need, they make them a tough matchup.
Even when Mike Yeo was there, it was amazing how well they played defensively with the kind of guys they had. Not a whole lot of big burly stuff there, but some really intelligent guys in their own zone, it seemed like.
Well, yeah, I think, and I think Scotty Stevens has helped with that a little bit too. He's defined the defensive side of it a little differently. I don't think that Ryan Suter is the guy that all of a sudden can just jump over the boards and go. He wants to be that horse to eat the minutes, but Scotty's pretty intelligent about how he manages him and his minutes. So I think all of that is tightened up, and it makes it a much better team. And again, I brought up the goaltending. They're a difference maker, and you've seen both swings in the goaltenders. Maybe, in Minnesota's case, heightened at the start of the year, maybe not as good as they started. In St. Louis's case, much better from the end of the year to where they were at the start.
No question about that. And you know what I go back to, and I talked about this early in the year, when the emphasis is always on the goaltender, what kind of goal they're giving up, I said the system's not strong enough.
Right.
It has to be playoff ready. And one thing I like about both Minnesota, Devin Dubnyk's tough to get to. Everything seems to be from the outside. He's going to make the first save. You're going to have to get a little greasy on him, it looks like. He has very, very good hands. At 6'5" and 215 pounds, he's able to cover a lot of net, but he's so calm in the net. So I think the Blues have got to get a little really greasy on him and work hard. Remember that phrase that we used to use going up against Pekka Rinne? Sometimes you got to work harder around the crease than Pekka Rinne is going to work at covering up pucks.
In the crease.
In the crease. Like, you got to get right there to the blue paint as much as possible.
No, I agree with you on that. I think the only way to make it work against Dubnyk, because of his size, is to make sure you're there for the falls, the ones that fall off the chest, that fall off the blocker, off the catching mitt. Any of the falls, you got to pick up the falls, and when those fall, you got to be the guy that's got body position and found a way to make sure that you capitalize. You're not going to get a lot of those really good looks from the middle of the ice one-on-one.
Yeah.
You get them, you got to make a difference.
And I love the way Jake Allen and Carter Hutton have played, but the system for the St. Louis Blues, 5-on-5, is the best since February 1st. There's no other team in the NHL that has protected their net, that has a higher save percentage, that has lower goals against average. So I think the Blues are in real good shape, real good disciplined defensive zone shape to handle a long playoff series and many more.
Well, I think you're right. And the one thing I like about them is the puck support.
Yeah.
Defensively, the puck support has been fantastic in the second half of the season. So the St. Louis Blues have certainly found something to build on, and it should be an interesting series. Let's go back to Chris Kerber.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Well, that's a heck of a breakdown right there, John Kelly, and I'll tell you what, this is going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. There's nothing better than playoff hockey, and we know that at Scott Trade Center, the atmosphere is fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait till Easter Sunday when the Blues come home for Game 3. Curbs, you go back a year ago when the Blues went to the third round before losing to San Jose. I don't think I've ever seen a city more psyched up for Blues hockey on a daily basis. I mean, wherever you went, whether it was the gas station, the store, you saw banners all around. This city was jacked up for the Blues, and I'm sure it'll be the same in 2017.
And that banner program, by the way, is still going on. Log on to stlauthentics.com, and you can get a banner for this year as well. Get those banners up, put them on social media. We'll retweet them. The team will make sure that you get some publicity out of it. But we want to see Let's Go Blues banners all over the city of St. Louis. Now, the pep rallies are always fun. I know you go out there, you've been a part of them, and when those crowds get jacked up, especially since being in the Midwest, we've got a couple of late starts. Those pep rallies, which will start a couple hours before the gates open, are a ton of fun.
You know, to me, it's the best time of year. Obviously, you have the Stanley Cup playoffs, but the weather is great. Of course, the Cardinals are back in action, but I look forward to the pep rallies and talking to the fans and getting the fans jacked up for the game, because obviously the Blues need the seventh man every night they play at Scottrade.
So tickets are still available for the first round. You can get them at stlouisblues.com/tickets. Some great seats, even all-inclusive seats are available as well. And again, the Blues open up on the road in Minnesota, and they'll open up Wednesday and Friday, come home, and the home games, as you mentioned, 2 o'clock Easter Sunday. Plenty of time for the Easter egg hunt in the morning, dinner with the family afterwards, a little hockey in the middle, and then on Wednesday night, and that's an 8:30 start here at Scottrade Center. And again, log on to stlouisblues.com/playoffs for all of your playoff information, including pep rally start times, game times, ticket information, you name it, it's all at stlouisblues.com/playoffs. John, thanks. Let's go have some fun in the playoffs.
Yeah, great breakdown, and let's hope this run goes for a long time into June this year.
That's John Kelly along with Darren Pang and Kelly Chase. I'm Chris Kerber. That's our first round preview show. Folks, get your playoff tickets. Round 1 starts Wednesday.